travelling to a school that I've got a bit of a drive for to get to today, and thought it was a great time to answer a question that a lot of people ask me throughout the course of the year, and it's all about using ICT in a meaning and purposeful way, but having it drive your sports carnivals. And this year has been a remarkable year, but the journey probably started back 2 or 3 years ago, maybe even longer, probably 4 or 5 years ago, where really started to experiment with the use of smart devices. Now, my preference has always been an iPad or an iPhone, but using your iPad, iPhones at sporting carnivals to create a live atmosphere, to create live scoring, and really, in essence, to actually get away with all the paperwork. Because let's face it, a track and field day, when you put all the paperwork together and you print off all your marshal sheets, and you might have your 10 events or 11 events or 12 events, depending on however many things that you want to add with ball games and traditional track and field events as well, you end up printing off quite a few trees. And I know that you know that at the very last minute, with your track and field championships, someone makes a change. There is a child in a wrong age group, or you might have a number of children in the wrong age groups, and it requires a reprint of quite a number of those sheets. And let's face it, it can actually be quite frustrating, because you know that you've put so many hours into the preparation of these days that and you've asked your staff to proofread all of the documents that you've put out, but to then have to, the day before, go and reprint almost the entire program again, and then place them all in the folders again, is one of those really time-consuming and frustrating things that you want to avoid. So with the help of my beautiful friend Jane McPherson, we started to explore the idea of using iPads and the idea of also using Google Sheets as a live medium to be able to house all the information, because all the information was already there in Excel, and being able to then merge it across and create a few formulas to really keep that flow going was a real creative spin. And throughout this little webinar, I'll show you examples of what we tried to achieve, and we ended up achieving it quite successfully. But the whole idea and the whole presence of creating that Google Sheets track and field championships was one, the challenge of exploration to see whether it would work, and two, as physical education teachers, and with Google now being at the forefront of everything we do, or cloud-based mediums, really having the on-flow to the kids and showing them what is actually possible to really maximise their opportunities as well. The other one, which has always been my past probably decade burning desire, was to really engage the parents that just can't get to the carnivals. And in a time poor industry that we're in at the moment, we do have a large percentage of parents that have to work full time, both mum and dad, to pay mortgages, to pay bills. It's a very expensive life that we're currently living in, and sometimes the sacrifice comes with parents not being able to get to where the sporting carnivals are, and missing golden moments in their children's education. So having the Google Sheets as a live document really then energized and empowered the parents to be more connected, because they were able to sit in their busy days and their busy lives, while at the same time still being able to check in on to see how their children have been performing at sports carnivals. So when the kids got home at night, it wasn't a surprise to mum and dad. Mum and dad had worked 9 till 5 that day, and may have been completely exhausted from meetings and business meetings and making million dollar decisions with their own jobs and careers, and potentially, the information, unless that child presented it, could go amiss. So having mum and dad being fully aware of what was happening through the day really allowed that dinner conversation to exist, and the child to be very proud of their achievements, no matter what result they placed at that day. So the Google Sheets that we created then allowed that flow. We also then appreciated, by creating that, we were educating teachers within our schools to be experimental and not rely on pen and paper, but also to give them that professional development and show them the power of cloud-based mediums and what was possible inside their own classrooms. The sheets that we'll show you later in this webinar, and probably down below in the attachments, you'll see that it has quite an awesome flow. And what Jane and I sort of looked at was really trying to maximise the time and effort that we had to put into creating the sheets, but also, more importantly, the time and effort that the teachers needed to spend collecting the data, and then what the end result was as well. Because what we wanted to really look at was at track and field, at the first entry level, everyone's in. Now, at my old school, at Leopold Primary School, we had 400 to 500 kids go to the track and field championships. So each station for half an hour had around 30 competitors that needed to get 1 or 2 attempts at a field event, and definitely one attempt at a track event. And that data had to be collected, and that data had to be obviously recorded to then work out placings and where children finish results and the points that were collected for each house as well. So the Excel document allowed what was really easy was that the list was the same at the start of each event. So the kids kind of knew their role order, and then they flowed through that. Now, the best part about this is once that data was collected next to the child's name, they were able to see down the bottom that one of Jane's techies at the school had, sorry, it wasn't a techie, it was actually a teacher that was unbelievable at writing Excel formulas, had created an Excel formula that took from all the data that was above the line that the teachers were entering, it took the top placings. So we might have allocated the top 10 placings, and it took those top 10 placings and it started to flip them around. So if I threw first, then obviously I'd be number 1. But then if Jane threw and she beat my score, then I would go to number 2 and Jane would go to number 1. And then we might have Aaron come in and throw, and he might then be number 1, Jane would be number 2, and I'd go to number 3. But then if I had my second attempt and I threw further, I'd go back up to number 1, Azza would be number 2, and Jane would be number 3. So it created that real live stream that if a parent was watching from their office, then they were able to see who was in the lead of that event at any one time. They were able to see the score that their child achieved, and then they were also able to see the house points that were awarded to their child for achieving a top 10 placing. Now that was that in a nutshell for every event, and it allowed the flow to be beautiful. It allowed us to then determine who the top 3 place getters were for obviously school teams. The really awesome add-on to this was that we then created a platform whereby the top place getters were sent to a different sheet that started to formulate a school team. And the school team was one of those things that really took a long time. And it took a long time because you often would have the same child win all the events. And when they win all the events, they're only allowed to qualify in a number of events, and the maximum number of events might have been 2 or 3 at the next level championships. So you had to then work through who was the qualifiers in that event, and then if we eliminated one of those kids that had won all the events, then who was that next qualifier? So we were able to go back when we were choosing the school team and then eliminate that child that has won multiple events, allow them to choose the event that they wanted, and then it started to automatically throw that next child up. So to a point where by probably the second hour, rather than the second week of working on this school team, you had a school team picked. And that right there was the key to maximising time and effort, and allowing yourself to be able to get on with what your role in the school was as a physical educator. So that's it in a nutshell. The greatest thing with all of that as well was that through the points that were awarded for each child participating, by the time that last event had been finished, then we had all the points in, and we were able to declare a house champion 10 minutes after the last event. So it kept the day on schedule. Kids got back onto their bus and back to school at the right time to be able to be dismissed. All of this was possible obviously through a cloud-based medium, and the biggest question I think you guys are having there and scratching your head is, well, how do you get Wi-Fi onto multiple devices? Because I had 15 devices out there all running at the same time, without Wi-Fi running around the stratosphere that was within us. So we ended up picking up some Wi-Fi modems. It's just little ones that you bought at the local store. And my go-to one was Optus, which is a local provider down here in Australia. And each one of those Optus devices allowed a connection of 10 iPads. So I put one of those devices in my pocket, and I put another one in one of my other coordinator's pockets who was in charge of a different part of the day. And prior to the teachers having access to the iPads, we allocated 10 iPads to one of those devices and 10 iPads to the other device. Now, the Google Sheets we ran offline, so it meant that teachers were able to edit Google Sheets without Wi-Fi being around. But when the Wi-Fi was near, the Wi-Fi then triggered the data to be transferred and collaborated together. So once we did our little rotations, we were checking in with different events. We didn't actually have to get the device off any teachers. We just came within probably 15 to 20 meters of those iPads, and it automatically triggered the Wi-Fi device on the iPad, which then collaborated all the results back to the main cloud. And that there was the inroad to success, because teachers were able to see everything else that was happening during the day, but they were only editing their one tab because we had the one teacher running shot put, so that teacher would stay at that event, and they would just move across that list with different kids. So what it also meant is that teachers weren't jumping in and trying to type over other teachers' data or anything like that. So you'll see on that sheet, as you move along the different tabs again, that it was all set up in different tabs, and teachers really just took charge of one tab. So that's it, team. Again, my name's Andy Hare. Anything I can do to help you, just sing out. But I'm in love with tech, and that tech right there changed the way I saw everything. Fantastic. Have a nice day.